A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wasallam. Inshallah, today we will contemplate on the seventh Ruku of Surah Bani Israel. The last Ruku ended with this statement that it has been stated by Allah Almighty that everyone is under His jurisdiction, and those who do not have this conviction on the signs of their Lord, for them the vision which we showed to you and the tree which is accursed in the Holy Quran are severe trials. Let's start today's session with this invocation that may Allah Almighty help us in understanding the Holy Quran by the grace of His beloved Prophet Rahmatul Alameen Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Ruku 7 comprising verses 61 to 70. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wa is kulna lil malaikatis judu li adama fasajadu illa Iblees. And when we said to angels, prostrate to Adam, so they prostrated except Iblees. Qala a asjudu liman khalaqta tina, said, should I prostrate to one you created from clay? Two types of prostration are discussed in the Holy Quran. The first one is at the creation of Adam, and the second is when the knowledge of the attributes were bestowed to Adam. As far as the first type of prostration is concerned, which is related to the Adam's creation, is not only mentioned in this verse but also in Surah Araf, Surah Hijr, Surah Al-Kahf, Surah Taha and Surah Saad. By contemplating on these verses, it is evident that when Iblis was asked about the defiance, he declared himself superior and showed arrogance. For example, in chapter 38, Surah Saad, verses 75 and 76, it is mentioned, said, O Iblis, what prevented you from prostrating to that which I created by my hands? Were you arrogant or were you among the haughty? He said, I am better than him. You created me from fire and created him from clay. It means considering oneself better than others is the perception of Iblis, whereas accepting one's mistake and asking for forgiveness is the Adam's way. Kala ara'aytaka hazallazi karamta alayya, said, do you see this? One whom you have honored above me. La in akhartani ila yawmil qiyamati la ahtani kanna zurriyatahu illa kalila. If you give respite to me until the day of resurrection, I will surely surmount his descendants except for a few. Li ahtani kanna, I would reign him and drive. Instead of accepting his mistakes, Iblis started demurring the Adam's accolade. In fact, he was considering his apparent form, movement, actions, and his flying to be everything. Therefore, he requested from the Lord Almighty to give him respite until the day of resurrection. And in that period, he would bring under the control all progenies of Adam, but only very few would remain safe from his deceptions, and they would be the pure servants of Allah Almighty. Qalas hab faman tabi aka minhum, said, go, so whoever of them adheres you. Fa inna jahannama jazaukum jazaam mawfura. Indeed, hell will be the recompense of you all, an ample recompense. Mawfuran, full. On the request of Iblis, Allah Almighty gave him respite till the duration of cognizance, and it was announced that whoever would follow Iblis, he would be thrown into hell with him, so that he might get full compensation of his actions. واستفزز من استطعت منهم بصوتك وأجلب عليهم بخيلك ورجلك and tempt whoever you can among them with your voice and assault them with your cavalcades and pawns وشاركهم في الأموال والأولاد وإدهم and become a partner in their wealth and their children and promise them وما يعدهم الشيطان إلا غرورا and not are the promises of Satan except delusion. The first underlined word is astafzis, make unsettle. Bisautika, by your voice. Ajlib, attack. In this verse, the freedom areas which Lord Almighty has given to Iblees are mentioned. They include number first, averting someone by his false propaganda. Number two, giving the false delusion of greediness, of authority and power. Number three, ambition for affluence and children. Number four, giving false promises. It is also been manifested in this verse that the Satan can't compel anyone by force. Rather, he deludes the person by his lucrative conversation, greediness, and deceptive promises. And according to this verse, the Satan's promise are nothing but deceit. In chapter 14, Surah Ibrahim, verse 22, it is highlighted. And will say the Satan, what has been decided the matter? Indeed, Allah had promised you the promise of the reality, and I promise you, then I betrayed you, and I had no authority over you except that I invited you, and you responded to me. So do not blame me and blame yourselves. I cannot be your aid, and nor can you be my aid. Indeed, I deny your association of me. Inna ibadi laysa laka alayhim sultan. Indeed, over my servants, there is for you no authority. Wakafa birabbika wakila. And sufficient is your Lord as disposer of affairs. Rabbukumul lazi yusji lakumul fulka fil bahri litabtagu min fazli. It is your Lord who drives the ship for you through the sea, that you may seek of his bounty. Innahu kana bikum rahima. Indeed, he is over to you merciful. It is also evident from this verse that Satan has no authority over the servants of Lord. In chapter 15, Surah Al-Hijr, verse 40. And in chapter 38, Surah Saad, verse 83, it is mentioned that Iblees himself admitted that he did not have any authority over the pure servants of Allah Almighty. Illa ibadaka min humul mukhlasin, except among them your pure servants. The reality is that this system of multiverses is governed by the mercy of the Lord Almighty. He has bestowed the children of Adam with infinite capabilities so that they can seek the purpose of their life. Everyone can find his bounty through his struggle and passion. وَإِذَا مَسَّكَمُ الضُّرُّ فِي الْبَحْرِ. And when an adversity touches you at sea, Zalla man tad'una illa iyyahu. Lost are those whom you invoke besides him. Falamma najjakum ilal barri aradtum. But when he delivers you to the land, you turn away. وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ كَفُورًا. And ever is man ungrateful. Afa amintum an yaksifa bikum janibal barri. So do you feel secure that he will not cause land to swallow you? أو يرسل عليكم حاصبا ثم لا تجدوا لكم وكيلا, or send against you a storm of stones, then you would not find for yourselves an advocate. Hasiban, storm of stones. There come number of incidents in our lives when we are struck because of our actions. All those whom we supplicate beside Allah Almighty are lost, and those whom we consider the fulfiller of our needs and our sustainer, all are vanished. At that moment, when we invoke Allah Almighty for help, His attribute of mercy becomes vibrant and helps the supplicant. The best way of being thankful for His help is that we may leave everything beside Him and associate ourselves with Allah Almighty, who has never left us in any situation. But the majority of us, after the alleviation of problem, forget everything and again indulged in fulfilling our desires. In chapter 10, Surah Yunus, verse 12, it is mentioned, and when affliction touches man, he calls upon us, whether lying on his side or sitting or standing. But when we remove from him his affliction, he walks away as if he had never called upon us to an affliction that touches him. Thus is made pleasing for the extravagant that which they have been doing. Such like perception is not liked by the Lord Almighty and is an ingratitude towards his benediction. Are those people not afraid that they could be sunk in the land, or the stormy wind would be sent to them, and they would have no time to move to the protective place? Am amintum an yuidakum fihi taratan ukhra, or do you feel secure that he will not send you back into the sea another time? فَيُرْسِلَ عَلَيْكُمْ كَاسِفًا مِنَ الرِّيحِ فَيُغْرِقَكُمْ بِمَا كَفَرْتُمْ, then send upon you a hurricane of wind and drown you of your ingratitude. ثُمَّ لَا تَجِدُوا لَكُمْ عَلَيْنَا بِهِ تَبِيًّا, then you would not seek for yourself against us any avenger. Taratan, once more. Kasifan, a cyclone. Are these ungrateful people not afraid that they would be sent to that sea once more, and a hurricane may strike them due to their ingratitude, or may drown them? That is, such calamities or disasters may arrive that will make the life cumbersome, and there will be no one to whom the incident can be registered. These problems and pains do not come randomly. Rather, they are the consequence of our actions. When the defiance and transgressions cross certain threshold, the chastisement is inflicted upon the nation or person, and its outcome is in accordance to the sins. In chapter 29, Surah Al-Ankabut, verse 40, it is mentioned, so each we seized for his sins, and among them were those whom we sent a storm of stones, and among them were those who were seized by the blast, and among them were those whom we caused the earth to swallow, and among them were those whom we drowned, and Allah would not have wronged them, but it was they who were wronging themselves. وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ وَحَمَلْنَاهُمْ فِي الْبَرِّ وَالْبَحْرِ, and we have certainly honored the children of Adam and carried them on the land and sea. وَرَزَقْنَاهُمْ مِنْ طَيِّبَاتِ وَفَضَّلْنَاهُمْ عَلَى كَثِيرٍ مِمَّنْ خَلَقْنَا تَفْضِيلًا, and provided sustenance for them from beneficial, and favored them over much of what we have created with preference. Another sign of His greatness is providing conveyance to us in land and sea, whereas the rest of the creatures are journeying of their own. Allah Almighty has provided us sustenance from the beneficial and fresh things, and has given preference to us over other creatures. Therefore, it is mandatory for us to be grateful to our Lord. And this is by using those provisions not only for the improvement of ourselves but also for the benefits of other creatures. The most vital blessings of all in this world is the guidance towards the correct course. A summary of the seventh ruku. Considering the appearance, movements, and actions of others to be everything, and on behalf of one's knowledge, capabilities, and skills, declaring oneself superior and showing arrogance are the perceptions of Iblees. When Iblis defied the order of Allah Almighty regarding prostration to Adam, he was casted away. At that moment, he asked for the respite to deviate mankind, and it was given to him. Allah Almighty declared it clearly that he would have no authority over his pure servants. Allah Almighty has blessed us with all sorts of capabilities and provided us with all types of resources so that we may be grateful to Him and seek His bounty. But most of us forget our realities and indulge in fulfilling our own desires. And whenever encountered by any difficult situation, and all the self assumed supports disappear, then at that moment we only remember Allah Almighty, who is the real creator and the deity for assistance. May Allah Almighty help us in understanding the Holy Quran by the grace of His beloved Prophet Rahmatul Alameen Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Sadaqallahul Aliyul Azim Sallallahu Ta'ala ala Habibihi Muhammadin wa ala alihi wasallam.